No, it did. Here it is. Hey, we're live now. It shows that we're live, and we cut off for a while, and then we're live. Well, this is what happens when you're dealing with the Emil Guillermo home tech closet. Oh, now make sure that we have the Emil Guillermo Orchestra. Ah, they're not on strike. They're not on strike. Oh, so a little bit of a hiccup. I was all set to go on, and then suddenly I froze. Don't know exactly what happened. And then I fixed my camera so you can see my speciesism t-shirt. Speciesism, which is defined as prejudice or discrimination based on species, because we do not, on this program, discriminate against species. I mean, if I want to interview a shark or a polar bear, I will interview a shark or a polar bear. I got to find one that would consent, though, first of all. And why I say that, because I'm in a new Ishmael Reed play where a key player, maybe the showstopper, is the shark, or maybe it's the polar bear. I don't. It's up to you. I mean, it's wild. And if you know Ishmael Reed's work, it's kind of surreal anyway. But this is based on the Shine toasts, they're called, the oral tradition ditties that were passed on for decades after the Titanic. The story goes that there was a black man in the engine room at the Titanic, and he escaped, and he swam all the way from the Atlantic right after the Titanic hit the iceberg, and he got to the East River or Queens. I don't know. He got to New York, and they were saying these ditties in honor of Shine, and it's a whole thing that is that generations of the black community have just passed on in this oral tradition. Anyway, I'm an honorary member of the Ishmael Reed Players, so I watch for it. It's coming this month or next month in February. The Shine Toast, the Shine Challenge, as Ishmael calls it, and it's going to be online. So check it out. It's a reading, and I play, just like he likes to cast me as a conservative such and such. Like in his last thing, I was a conservative commentator. In this one, I am the owner of the Titanic. I'm J. Bruce Ismay, who not only is the owner of the Titanic, but he, along with J.P. Morgan, who bankrolled the whole thing, he was a survivor. Ismay is a survivor. So I guess that's kind of villainous, I think. Anyway, it's coming up. I'll tell you when. It's going to be online. So check it out. The Shine Challenge, Ishmael Reed's new play. I happen to be in it. It's going to be run toward the end of February. And you can catch tickets online, presented by the New Yorican Poets. The New Yorican Poets Cafe, right? But it's an online thing, so I think you'll like it. I think it's funny, it's surreal, and I think it touches on speciesism because there's a shark in a polar bear. I wish I'd gotten the part of the polar bear. I don't think I was white enough. Anyway, the Shine Challenge, it's called. I'll tell you when it is. Some of the other things I'm involved in. The Rogue Festival, which is a fringe festival, one person solo shows in Fresno. For the Central Valley, it's the fringe. I always got aced out, never got picked for it. It's all by lottery. I got in this year. I'm going to be in Fresno on March 2nd, 3rd, and 7th. Oh, and 9th. So 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 9th, the Rogue Festival. Check out their website in Fresno with another version of Emil, Amok, Lost NPR host. If you missed it, didn't see it, it might be worth driving to Fresno one weekend. Maybe. Catch that, have lunch, drive back, say hello to me. Fresno. You would assume it's the raisin capital. It's the biggest city in the Central Valley. But it's not the raisin capital. Selma claims to be the raisin capital. Anyway, I'm there in February, or in March, rather. March 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 9th. The Rogue Festival at the Lotus Room. And then I'm going to go to New York in April. I'll be in New York at the New York City Fringe, a brand new New York City Fringe. It used to be called the Frigid Fringe. Now it's called the New York City Fringe. I'll be there April 5th, 8th, 13th, 19th, and 21st, all different times, with an updated version of Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, vegan trans dad. What? You're going to have to check it out. And then I'm going to be at the Orlando Fringe Festival in May. So it's just there I am out there, out in the ether. Actually, those are live shows, probably live. The Shine Challenge with Ishmael Reed, that's going to be available by Zoom at the New Yorican Poets Cafe, I think. I'll get more details, but I just want you to be alert as to the times. Okay, so now you get the times. Hey, hi, it's Emil Amok. Emil Amok to you, Emil Guillermo. This is my Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. We're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific or so. Yesterday, I kind of took a day off because I was driving back up from Santa Monica, which Santa Monica is really pretty. It's still the beach. When it's not crowded, it's perfect. In the wintertime, I think it's perfect. Right? In the summer, I don't know. LA is a little too hot for me in the summer. But in the wintertime, it's perfect. So I hang out there like on Monday nights and Tuesday, and then I come back home. And pretty. It was one of the first Mondays when it was actually good weather. I'm sure the surfers were out there when it was wet. Like today, it's kind of gray and dreary in California. I hope it's nice where you are. But we're expecting the Pineapple Express here in California. So who knows? Time for pina coladas? I don't know. Pineapple, that's going to dump a lot of water. The atmospheric river is coming. If I'm floating from my COVID closet, you'll know why. It's that atmospheric river hit him. Lots in the news, Joe Biden he's ready to blame an Iranian splinter group for what happened with the drone. That whole drone thing. This is what happened. There were a lot of mistakes. They mistook what the drone was, and this is what happens when you fight wars in this new modern way, especially if you're fighting with the government that likes to lowball on these things. You're going to have mistakes. I mean, it's one thing to have human mistakes, but when a machine makes a mistake about, oh, well, we thought that was that thrown in. So no response yet from Biden, although he says he's going to have one. I'm always wary about these things because, war is not a good thing. And we just want to send a message. So instead of sending a message with a bullet or a bomb attached, why don't we just talk more to get to the problem? I'm one of those kind of pacifists. I mean, I know a lot of people are egging on Biden. Go get him, Biden. Go get him. These are Republicans, right? The hawkish Republicans. There are hawkish Democrats too, but Biden finds himself caught between a lot of rocks and hard places these days. So that's big in the news. You ought to follow that. The Islamic resistance is being blamed in Iraq. So in a way, it's an Iran-backed militia, but it's Iraq, so you get 2 for 1, I guess. Or at least it's not all Iran, because that's terrible, because we don't want to trigger off any kind of, we don't want to start a war in the Middle East. So, but this is the kind of thing that I think Biden knows how to, he's in a tough spot, but he knows what to do. We're just a divided country. I just want you to think, if that were Donald Trump, who knows what we do? Who knows what we do? And judging from his performance in court, the antics that he's shown the public in court, I don't know if you want to trust what Trump would do. By the way, I was reading some things about Trump and the 83 or 90 million. It's going to be final, and then the interest clock ticks, and then he's going to have to do something, put the money in escrow so the money's there. He's going to have to do 90 million. He's already paid 5 for the one part of the judgment on the sexual assault. But it looks like that money is going to be set aside. He's not going to get out of it. And by the way, he paid that first part in cash. So the second part's either going to be in some kind of bond, or he's going to sell something to cover the money. But from my reading in the financial press, it looks like as soon as the judge has written off on the case as this is final, he's going to have to, Trump's going to have to move the money, even as he waits for appeals. And the money just sits until all the appeals are exhausted, although it doesn't look like he has a chance of winning an appeal. So we'll have to see that. In the meantime, all these other cases are coming along. The case about whether or not he should be thrown off the ballot. I mean, everyone's a 14th Amendment scholar now. Section 3. Did they really mean, no insurrectionists? Did that mean the president? Yeah, of course it meant the president. But, they've got to consider all this. This will be a test of the Supreme Court's sense of what is originalism, because they've got historians weighing in, saying, of course, they created this part of the 14th Amendment because they didn't want Confederates to get back in power. And it certainly applies to the insurrectionists who wanted to challenge the peaceful transition of power. So, of course, it applies to Trump. I think the Supreme Court bails. I think the Supreme Court says, hey, lower court rules. I think they'll that's sort of how I see it, because a lot of the briefs coming out, the amicus briefs coming up, make very convincing arguments that the originalists and the court, this is supposedly an originalist court. Trump thinks it's a Trump court. I hope they're more originalists than Trump. So that's coming up. And then, of course, there's the civil case about Trump's business dealings and whether or not he will have his business license stripped, or whether or not he'll be fined $370 million. So just imagine $370 million. He could get tagged for that plus the 90. Now we're into like 500, over 500 million. It's not a good time to be Donald Trump. But for people who are so against him, it's a happy time because it shows that, hey, our system works. There is accountability here. That's what we're looking for. Speaking of accountability, the big news, the really big news today, has been the dumping of the tech bros. I guess specifically we're talking about the TikTok guy, Chew, and Mark Zuckerberg, the Meta Facebook guy. The Twitter woman, she got dumped on a little bit, but not that much. But basically it's over the very lax standards, lax protections for children and young teens who get subjected to all the, not just the visual stuff and the content stuff, but they can be subject to trafficking, drugs. We have people who buy drugs online who've died. They're angry. We have people who've committed suicide because they were bullied. We have people who are angry about the sex trafficking, child abuse charges, all from Instagram or Facebook. And there was Mark Zuckerberg today, just really taking it on the chin. What's really good about this today, if you've been following it, watch it on C-SPAN. But what's good about this is that it's a bipartisan thing. You want a bipartisan activity on the part of Congress? Put up some tech billionaires on the hearing stand and have them face the Congress, and you'll see Republicans and Democrats all speaking passionately on behalf of the people they represent, because the tech community has failed the public. They've relied on some old law written 28 years ago that is not relevant, that does not do the job to protect anyone. And they talk a good game like, oh, we just create, this is what Zuckerberg said. We just create the tools. We create a world-class experience. Yeah, but you do nothing to protect the innocent from predators, from people who take advantage of them. You do nothing to protect the experience from screwing up with people's heads. And that's the problem. They don't regulate themselves, these tech folks, because all they want to do is maximize profits, maximize the money they make for the shareholders, right? I mean, that I spent a little time in tech, and that was the key message. Shareholder value. What's the shareholder value? That's the most important thing. Add to shareholder value means maximize profits. And it's funny how we've come in a generation, although in a tech generation is like 5 years, not a normal 20, 25 years. But in a tech generation, which is at least 4 since 2000, right? You know, the tech folks were considered, they were kind of seen as, are these guys counterculturalists? No, they're just techies. But they have the same values when it comes to money. They love it. They don't care about all the things that we fought for to protect people's rights, like unions and not working people 14 to 20 hours a day. The tech bros got off cheap. They got foosball tables. They got free food. Free food, foosball tables, you can work 14 hours, and we'll dangle these stock options. You'll all be billionaires. Oh, yeah, we'll do that. Forget the unions. Forget all the gains of the 20th century. We're going into the 21st. That's what happened. And look at what they did. Look at what these 21st century geniuses did. They created social media platforms that have disrupted all of media, all of traditional media. You can't even tell what's a true picture on the internet. Is it AI? Is it real? Is it a deep fake? One of the newspapers did a test where can you tell if this is real or if it's a deep fake? I couldn't tell the difference at all. I mean, I saw one thing, or no, actually I got the first five I knew were AI, deep fakes. They just had a look. I think this was the New York Times the other day. But all the others were like, oh, I wasn't sure. I mean, that's where we are now in media. It's all due to the digital breakthroughs of these tech bros. I'm telling you, they've wrecked media, they've wrecked society, and we love it, right? How many people are going to buy these $4,000 goggles? Now, if you remember Google Glass, that fiasco a few years ago, which I guess was sort of like the beginning of all this, or maybe it was, you had the, you had the, the Wii and the art of, you know what I'm talking about, virtual reality glasses. But now they're really good. Apple's coming out with their $4,000 virtual reality, goggles. And now it looks like in 10 years, I'll give it 10 years, everyone will be walking around with these goggles because that's the preferred life. You're an old guy, Emil. No, with my goggles, I'm living forever. I'm Adonis. I'm telling you, people will be hooked on these glasses. Like they ask, who's going to buy these goggles for $4,000? And young people with a lot of extra cash, right? And there are, I mean, if you're an associate of a tech bro, work in tech, if you're a modern day yuppie with money to spare, you're eating out every night, you got $4,000 to drop. So they're going to have them. But, in time, everyone is going to have them, just like everyone carries an iPhone and everyone has some kind of pod, earbud. Yeah, those are earbuds, not hearing aids. And because life is enhanced. And the question to Apple yesterday was, well, why are you going to have, who needs these, or why have them? Why buy them? And they said, oh, because it's cool. We're always searching for cool. So anyway, the tech bros, they have us in the palm of their hands. And now we got a few parents who were at that hearing today, who the congressmen, the senators were representing, because they had to have a respectable beatdown of the tech bro class. And they beat up on Zuckerberg, who, by the way, is now going to worry about this, plus catching up with Apple on the Google, or on the goggles, right? The vision things, because his virtual reality glasses are, they're out there. I haven't been tempted to buy them, but I am tempted to look at the Apple ones, because it'll make me feel younger, right? I put them on, and instead of being, Mr. AARP, I'm like 30 years younger, right? I just adjust the setting. But now he gets beaten up. Zuckerberg gets beaten up by Congress. And it was great because it was bipartisan. I think the worst beatdown was Josh Hawley on Zuckerberg. And, I do not like Josh Hawley. He's from Missouri. He's like a little more likable Ted Cruz. How would you like that to be the best thing anyone could say about you? Well, Josh Hawley, he's a little more likable than Ted Cruz. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So he's a shinier turd than Ted Cruz, in other words. I think that's how I would describe Josh Hawley. Just a shinier turd. Like, he's not going to get all over your shoe like Ted Cruz. He's like got still a sense of firmness. That's not to be confused with integrity. So that if you step it, it'll just be kind of like a dry crunch. That's Josh Hawley. He's still pretty despicable. But there he was beating on Zuckerberg. And it was really kind of masterful. He said, look, you're not going to do a thing for the people who you cause harm to, these people who are here, whose kids have died or have been impacted. You're not going to say on national television you're sorry or apologize to them. You're not going to set up a fund to pay these people anything. Are you saying? Oh, well, first he got into it this way. He said, "Look at all these things that happened to these kids. Did you fire anyone? Was anyone fired?" Now, that's an easy out. You say, "Look, hey, those are personnel matters. We don't discuss that." But then Hawley got nastier. He said, "Look at these people. Are you going to do anything for these people? Were these people paid anything? Were these people given any kind of remuneration for what they've been through? Are you going to help them be made whole? Are you going to start a fund with your own money?" Mark Zuckerberg looked lost. It was a bad look for tech. Check out the transcripts. New York Times had a nice little summary. I'm just telling you what I saw. Josh Hawley, I said, God, my God. If only he talked that way about other things that I liked. Not the stupid things that he likes, like border wall and Trumpism and all that. But here to protect the public from the tech. I mean, he had Zuckerberg right where he had Zuckerberg like on a string. He said, "Are you going to tell people on TV right now? You got a national audience. Are you going to tell these people you're sorry?" And he started. Darn it, if he didn't start apologizing. I mean, it was uncanny. And let's see. I'm going to pull out the exact quote because it was just Mark Zuckerberg's got to be careful because he doesn't want to apologize, because if he apologizes, he's essentially saying, yeah, we screwed up. We haven't done enough. I mean, his answer has always been, hey, we are creating world-class tools. He's always said, we're just tool makers here. We're not, in other words, we're not responsible. We're just here to make money. We provide tools, people do their thing. Right? It's the whole we're just a platform. We're not guilty of anything. If something bad happens, it's because people have taken our platform and done something bad on their own. Wow. That is such a diversionary, not my job kind of thing, even though you created it, right? Hey, I'm not at fault. I take no responsibility. People took the tools and they did porn, they did drugs, they did all this stuff. That's a problem with the platforms. That's a problem with tech. But Hawley really had Zuckerberg as if a puppet on a string. And he said, "Are you going to apologize for the harm caused by Meta?" And Zuckerberg just stood up. He turned to the families, victims in the audience who had suffered abuse from Meta's apps. And Zuckerberg said, I'm sorry for everything you have been all through. I'm sorry for everything you have all been through. No one should go through the things that your families have suffered. And he said that his company was working so that no one else would have to do so and did not address Meta's role. But, I mean, it's a fine line. I'm sorry for everything you've all been through. This is like when people of color ask racists who are on tirades to apologize, and they say, I'm sorry if you felt hurt by something. Which, right, it doesn't address, I'm never going to say it again. Something I said, bothered you. No. It's always like, hey, I'm sorry you hurt. I wish you didn't have to go through that. But it doesn't say, hey, we caused it. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. I'm sorry for everything you have all been through. No one should go through the things that your families have suffered. See, a better line would be, Facebook did it. Facebook will compensate you. Facebook was wrong. I mean, that's, just go Vini Vidi Vici, right? That's all they wanted to hear. So you had Meta, Snap, Discord, X, TikTok, all these guys were there. Shu Chu, TikTok's chief executive, he got grilled. Man, Tom Cotton, who's the senator from Arkansas, who for a time was thought to be the second coming of Trump. Well, he's not the second coming of Trump. I guess he realizes that he shouldn't. He wants to hold back a little bit. But he went after Chu of TikTok. He said, do you have a passport? Your kids, your wife she's an American. Your kids are born here. They're American. Do you want to be an American? He said, I have no plans. Where are you a citizen? Singapore. And he was trying to get Chu to say, because TikTok is essentially a Chinese company, he wouldn't criticize China, and he was trying to expose. Cotton was trying to expose the fact that Chu was scared of saying anything bad about China because he would face it. He would have to face the music. But it was the kind of prosecution or prosecutorial grilling that was just stunning. And then, but what really got me is when he asked Chu, the TikTok guy, Cotton said, are you a member of the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party? Are you a member? It was almost like McCarthyist, right? Wow. I don't know if I could go that far. I mean, I would be a little more, but he was like, because he was defending the victims, the families behind him, right? Who were harmed by TikTok. He went for it. And I have to say, I think Tom Cotton scored. I just wish he was as passionate about some of the issues I believed in also. But if our common ground is the social media companies, that's a start. Because really, I don't like the social media companies. I mean, here I am on Meta, on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I put out this show on all these different things. It's democratizing. Yeah, it's a good platform. But there needs to be more controls. And, not a good look for the tech pros today, but not a good look for Congress. It's taken more than, it's 28 years since the law that applies to them was put into place, and it's essentially irrelevant. So something's got to be done. Will something be done? I don't know. I don't think so. But at least today, we were entertained because those chief executives, this is not the first time they were out there, but the chief executives were called to task. This is far more effective than beating up on the Harvard, the college presidents about DEI. I mean, that was bad. That was more of an attack. This was more principled. This was more principled because the victims were right behind them, in the hearing room. And that moment when Holly said to Zuckerberg, "Are you going to apologize to these people?" And Zuckerberg stood up. He wasn't mic'd, but the exact quote from Zuckerberg is, "I'm sorry for everything you've all been through. No one should go through the things that your families have suffered." And it was a significant historical moment in the evolution toward getting to the answer. And the answer, of course, is regulation. We're going to have to regulate these guys. But they have their money. They have their lobbyists. They have their people in their pocket. I mean, that's how the game is played. But now we got to do something. I mean, people have talked about, well, this is just like big tobacco. It's just like big tobacco getting, brought up, called on the carpet. Yeah, it is like big tobacco. Although everyone knows tobacco is bad, there's enough people who would say, oh, look how democratic social media is. Look how democratizing it is. Look what a great tool this is. And look how we've enriched all these people. I mean, there'll be people who say things like, oh, it's not all that bad. It is all that bad when it's unregulated. Just is. So anyway, that was the exciting thing today. Lots happening on the hearing front. Let's see, some other people are coming on, just commenting. Malloy is commenting. Thank you for commenting. You can always comment on Facebook, and then people can read it, because you can see us on fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media, also on YouTube at Emil Amok1, and on Twitter at Emil Amok. If you want to talk back, if you want to, I'll acknowledge you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being there. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is the FBI. Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray is finally learning. You got to say a disclaimer, right? You just have to say the disclaimer. You can't say, we got a problem with China. They're hacking the hell out of us. They're attacking our infrastructure. They outnumber us like 50-1. I mean, it's serious. I'm not saying Christopher Wray has been a bad guy. He's just been a little loose in the past. And I'm talking about all his statements about China, since Trump and now into Biden. He's been irresponsible. But here was the difference today. This was Christopher Wray today.
Before I go on, I do want to make very clear that my comments today are not about the Chinese people.
Not about the Chinese people. He wasn't attacking people personally. Now you say, Emil, he didn't have to say it. Yes, he does. He has to say that because it will be interpreted as an attack on Chinese people. Now, that was just part one. Here is part two.
And certainly not about Chinese Americans who contribute much to our country and are frankly often the victims of Chinese Communist Party aggression themselves. Rather, in particular, led by this. Now, China.
Oh, so thank goodness. Now let me just play it again.
Before I go on, I do want to make very clear that my comments today are not about the Chinese people, and certainly not about Chinese Americans who contribute much to our country and are frankly often the victims of Chinese Communist Party aggression themselves.
That was such an important disclaimer. He had to say it. He had to say it because whenever he calls attention to these things, saying China is doing this and China's attacking us and we're losing out to China, it causes a backlash in the Asian American community. Finally, someone tapped his shoulder and said, hey, look, there's some good Asian Americans out there, and they're getting screwed because you're creating this fear. Because people are looking over their shoulder wherever there's an Asian, thinking they're spies. And they bring up the case of Wen Ho Lee in 2000, when Ho Lee was, he was a Taiwanese scientist, or an American, a Taiwanese-born American scientist who was working at New Mexico at the Sandia Labs, I believe. He was also at the Lawrence Livermore Labs for a while. But because of sources, mainstream media reported very biasly that Wen Ho Lee was a spy. He was falsely accused. His life was wrecked. His life, other Asian American scientists' lives were wrecked. His family was impacted. And then finally they had to realize, oh, we blew it on Wen Ho Lee. We relied too heavily on government sources that were wrong, that were biased. And ultimately a judge had to apologize to Wen Ho Lee. So that was in the 90s, or 2000, around there. Here we are 24 years later, and we haven't learned our lesson up until today. I think today we learned a lesson a bit, because Christopher Wray was talking about how Chinese are hacking our infrastructure, all our systems, our water, our utilities, our power plants, and they're outnumbering us, and we got to pay attention or we're going to pay. But he said all that, but before he said this disclaimer, which I had never heard him say before.
Before I go on, I do want to make very clear that my comments today are not about the Chinese people, and certainly not about Chinese Americans who contribute much to our country and are frankly often the victims of Chinese Communist Party aggression themselves.
See, now that he never said it that boldly, that bluntly. Don't go after Chinese Americans. Don't go after Asian Americans. Don't go after innocent Chinese people.
Rather, when I talk about the threat posed by China, I mean the government of China, in particular led by the CCP. The CCP's dangerous actions, China's multi-pronged assault on our national and economic security, make it the defining threat of our generation.
And there you have it. You make a statement like that, defining threat of our generation, and all you need is some guy to go, I would say, half-cocked on the whole China threat, and now suddenly they're looking at Asian Americans, Chinese Americans, and I'm not making this up. Chinese Americans have been hurt. Chinese Americans working in labs, working as researchers. Not a good thing. So I guess we owe a bit of thanks to Christopher Wray for that disclaimer, because it's never happened before, and I'm glad it's happened today. So we talked about this thing with the tech bros. Something's going to happen, because America has this addiction on tech. And there are some who will say, hey, look, tech is so freeing. Tech has changed our lives. No, it's wrecked our lives. And that's why people are trying to start, they're trying to address our addiction to screens. They're trying to get us to stop using them, trying to get us to just, look outside, walk around, enjoy life. So, I mean, this is a real critical juncture because Congress has to regulate. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Congress has to regulate tech. How they do it, it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight. Because remember, the tech folks, they don't have any kind of moral values. Their values are money. Their values are about shareholder value. Do it for the shareholders. Do it for the stock. Do it for the options. We're making money. Ha ha ha, we're smarter than everyone else. That is the mentality with the tech bro culture, right? We have the answers. We're going to put a Neuralink in your head. I mean, even that is kind of crazy. I mean, what Elon Musk has done with Neuralink is not, I mean, you might say, he's gotten to clinical trials now, and he's implanted something in the brain of someone who it could help, right? If they have some kind of impairment. But the fact they had to test on monkeys, not a good thing. That species is. And all this time, he's been doing these crazy things with monkeys. Now they have some humans. All right, we'll see. We'll see if it makes a difference. It may not. But these guys think they know everything, and they don't. I mean, it's funny. All the guys who are really strong against the tech guys were these conservatives. Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Kennedy of Louisiana. He said, oh, I don't know. You guys are more into technology than humanity. I mean, that really is the bottom line. We're losing our humanity in service to what? We're not making ourselves better people through the tech. Not if people are getting hurt. We're enriching somebody. That's a value that needs to be tempered. Make less money, do more good for the people who get hurt by this technology. That's what's needed. So Congress has to do something to regulate these guys. But in the meantime, there is this thing happening. It's in tech bro culture, right? I mean, and it is a thing. It is a thing. And it's called the Axios the other day called them the tech optimists. Now, I don't know how optimistic they are, but it is this sense that there's something good with tech. It'll get us everything we want. It's the great ideal. It's our technological dream, right? And it has to be a dream with goggles because that's how you're going to get it. We're going to pump those images in your head through those goggles, and we're going to intoxicate you and control your brain. You know, I'm usually an early adopter, but I like virtual reality. You know, I play those Wii games sometimes. I don't own any of that stuff. But, you know, it's dangerous, I think. I think it's dangerous because these guys are starting a new political class. Axios call them the tech optimists. They say themselves that that's not a good name necessarily, but it's this idea that better living through technology, and I think that's wrong. I think better living through connecting with people, that's a good thing. Now, this is a good technological use. I'm where I am in the bowels of California, and you're somewhere, wherever, and we're connecting, and I'm live. That's a good thing. And you can also turn it off, too. That's a good thing, too. Or you can, keep listening. And you say, oh, I liked Emil at 640, this episode 644. I know I'll like him in 643 and 642 and 641. But the tech bros, here's the thing about the tech bros. You look at the profile of the tech bros, and they're white, and they're mostly male, and they're against diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, who led the fight? Who led the fight against DEI at Congress when they had that congressional hearing with the college presidents? Conservatives, many of whom funded by this Bill Ackman, the hedge fund guy. And he is a model of the kind of people who are looking at our society and saying, look, we're just interested in money, making money. Technology is a way to make money. And here's the things that make our society work. We have technology that does something good, that makes money for people like us tech bros. Screw everyone else, and screw everyone who is a wimpy snowflake who is clamoring for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Forget that. It's essentially forgetting the fight for civil rights that didn't end in 1965. The fight for the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act might have ended in 64, 65, but the fight to make it stick continues. We're 50 years into that, and now here's people saying, nah, we don't need that. And who's at the forefront? Rich, white, mostly male, predominantly male tech bros, the tech bro culture. Now, the TikTok guy's Asian, and the X or the Twitter person, the person present, she was a female, but we all know who's in charge of X, formerly known as Twitter, Elon Musk. And there's Zuckerberg at Meta, Facebook, and all the rest. And I'm telling you, this is the new political class that we need to worry about, the tech bro culture, and we'll have to see how they manage after today. This was not a good look. People will see it, and they'll see that it's a bipartisan effort against the tech bros, which is good. Where do we ever have common ground? Had it today. Republicans like Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz with Amy Klobuchar. And Sheldon Whitehouse. Wow. That's the kind of bipartisanship that says, hey, we're America. We're the good part of America. Fighting, not at each other, but fighting for each other. That's what we need. So I'm all for that. Here I am with you via tech, but I'm saying, tech bros, watch out. A little more humanity, please. A little less technology. And to think, the generation of tech bros, we've been through several generations now. They thought all they needed to do was install a foosball table and give people free mini fridges in their offices and all the soda pop and maybe a massage and a nap room. That was the thing. Hey, we're a different kind of capitalist. The kind you like. No, they're the same kind of capitalists. It's always about money, and it's always about saying no to regulation. And that's got to change. That has got to change. All right. Hey, look, we went on and talked. I do want to say one thing. The Warriors won last night, and I was feeling good because they're playing well now. They're playing like they were in a slump, and even Steph Curry was throwing the ball away and not making shots. Now he's making the shots. What a great player Steph Curry is. And I don't like Draymond Green, but when he is controlled, he's a good player. But he's got to be in control. He can't fly off in a handle, because he knows how to dish it off to Jonathan Kuminga, who's starting to play well. So the Warriors are coming together. I'm glad for that. But I did want to make a comment about sports in general, because that, for me, sports is the kind of distraction that you need. It's sort of like taking a walk, right? You're upset by something, take a walk. You'll feel better. I like to watch sports. It relaxes me. I get to cheer. Sometimes I get taken too seriously, though, right? I really become a fanatic for my team. But the thing that's good about sports is that, yeah, you can care about it because it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't really matter. And that's why if you pour your heart and soul into it, hey, go team, and then you do the stats, it's a nice distraction. But we love it. I was listening to Colin Cowherd, who used to work in TV news, as I did. And he said, news is a bummer. News is bad. Sports is always happy. You always look forward to news. So I was listening to him. I said, yeah, sports is life affirming. It's happy. It's the good times. It's the candy store of life, right? It's happy. And even when your team loses, at least you're involved in a happy, feel-good thing. You look at news, and what is news? News is murder. News is war. News is mass killing, mass shooting, serial killing. News is bad news. I like to say news is not planes land, not news. Planes crash, news. Then you light up. It's kind of deviant. So I balance it out by doing sports or by talking or watching sports. And I like talking about news because this is the old news talk formula. I mean, I was watching Howard Stern on his on Sirius XM on the app. He does a video and you see him doing his thing. And I grew up with Stern. I mean, I watched him. I can't say I grew up with him because we're kind of the same age. I'm a little younger, but I know the thing. I know the format. You sit around. I don't have a Robin, but I have an otter, the Beanie Baby. Oh, Seaweed, the otter. I called her Otter. It's Seaweed. See, she's sucking the seaweed. And it is a she. So is that a she-weed? She-weed? No, seaweed, I think, is gender neutral. Right? It's seaweed. Seaweed the otter. Sits with me as I do this. Yeah. All right, I went through a Beanie Baby thing. I admit, I copped to that. But we still talk about news. And it's still kind of the news talk formula, except you don't have to call in. You can just listen. You can talk to yourself and say, oh, Emil, you're wrong. Or, oh, Emil, you're so right. And then what does Seaweed say? I don't know. Seaweed? She's mute. All right. Hey, thank you for listening. We're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, generally. This is show 644. Sometimes I'll like just play the repeat. And it's getting to, Monday, Wednesday, Friday I'm live. And maybe Friday I'll be here with Professor Dan. If I'm not here tomorrow, it just depends on what's going on, right? What's going on? But I do this. Don't forget, this show is like a news talk show. But I do a regular show with purposeful punchlines and narratives. And I'm performing in Fresno at the Rogue Festival, March 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 9th. In New York City at the New York City Fringe, April 5th, 8th, 13th, 19th, and the 21st, and in Orlando in May. So I'll fill you in on that. And also the Shine Challenge coming up in February, Black History Month. The Shine, I know I talked about the Shine toasts before at the start of the show here. Ishmael Reed's new play, The Shine Challenge, it's called. I have a little small part. There are no small parts, as I learned. Only small actors. Anyway, so those are some of the activities, some of the things I'm up to. Hey, thank you. Thank you for being here. Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific on YouTube at Emil Amok 1. Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, at Emil Amok, EMILAMOK. On YouTube, let's see, no, not you, on Facebook, fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media. We close with a little meditation because I am a stand-up meditator. A little metta, METTA, loving kindness. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Until next time.